This is a topic that we all could learn a little something about. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what stress is and why is it important that we manage it?
Sure. Thank you, Shadana, for that introduction.
Mhm.
Um, Anxiety disorders are some of the most common reasons people make appointments with their primary care doctor, and stress is included amongst anxiety disorders. 42% of Americans say they lie awake at night due to stress. So people are suffering. Stress is an emotion which can cause physical, cognitive, and behavioral problems. It is any type of change that causes these problems or strains. It's the body's response to this change, action, or attention. And as we all know, everyone experiences stress at some point in their lives. The way you respond to stress can have an adverse effect on your well being. So it's how you respond to it that makes a big difference.
Mhm.
Let's take a look at a short video about stress.
What's up, dudes, and what's up, ladies? Brian here, and in this video we're going to look at stress. What is it? What causes it? And what can we do about it? So, let's roll. What is stress? Stress is your body's way of reacting to any kind of demand or threat. When the body feels stress, your hypothalamus, a tiny region in your brain, signals your adrenal glands, located atop your kidneys, to release a surge of hormones, which include adrenaline and cortisol, into the bloodstream. As these hormones are released, the liver is triggered to produce more blood sugar, which gives you an energy kick, and breathing becomes more rapid, and heartbeat and blood pressure rise. If the stress is caused by physical danger, these chemicals can be beneficial, as they give you more energy and strength, and also speed up your reaction time and enhance your focus. But if the stress is caused by something emotional, it can be harmful, because there's no outlet for this extra energy and strength. Once the source of stress has passed, hormone levels return to normal, as do heart rate and blood pressure, and other systems also return to normal. Recent stress statistics show the top 7 causes of stress in the U.S. to be job pressure, money, health, relationships, poor nutrition, media overload, and sleep deprivation. All of these are of the emotional kind, not the physical danger that can be What's up, dudes? And caused by something emotional, it can be harmful because there's no outlet for this extra energy and strength. Once the source of stress has passed, hormone levels return to normal, as do heart rate and blood pressure, and other systems also return to normal. Recent stress statistics show the top 7 causes of stress in the U.S. to be job pressure, money, health, relationships, poor nutrition, media overload, and sleep deprivation. All of these are of the emotional kind, not the physical danger that can be beneficial. Other statistics show 77% of people regularly experience physical symptoms caused by stress. 54% of people say stress has caused them to fight with people close to them, and 30% of people say they're always or often under stress at work. So how does all of this stress affect our bodies? Long-term activation of the stress response system can cause major problems including anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, heart disease, sleep problems, weight gain, and memory and concentration impairment. It is vital to learn how to deal with stressors in your life. Some things you can do to manage stress include getting regular exercise, which can act as a distraction and also causes the release of endorphins and enkephalins that can help boost your mood. Eat a healthy diet that includes fruits and vegetables, which provide vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that can help maintain proper bodily functions. Make consistent time in your schedule for relaxation and fun, such as going to yoga class, listening to music, taking a walk, or working in your garden. Build relationships and friendships with people who have more positive attitudes. Cut down on caffeine, sugar, energy drinks, and alcohol. The effects of these are only short-term. Make sure you get enough good quality sleep, and if all else fails, seek professional help. Bottom line time. As you can see by the statistics, stress is a huge problem in society. A big part of being healthy is being happy. If stress is a big problem in your life, do something about it now. Don't let it erode your health. All right. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down, man. It's all good.
Thank you so much for sharing that video, DB. So in other words, we all experience stress, whether it's eustress or positive stress or negative stress or distress.
Yes.
The key is how we respond to the stress physically, emotionally, psychologically. It's interesting, Dee, I can always tell when I'm really stressed out. I know the video highlighted some of the impacts on our bodies physically. One thing that happens to me is that my memory goes, and I'm pretty good about recalling information. And so that's one key thing for me, letting me know that, hey, you have a little extra stress in your life, Shadana. Divi, I know that the focus of this group has been on the opioid crisis and ways to bring awareness and prevention to the community. Is there a correlation between stress and substance use, DB?
Yes, there definitely is a correlation. Stress is one of the main reasons why people become addicted in the first place, why they continue to use alcohol and drugs and other substances to deal with their stress or anxiety, and also a reason why they relapse back into addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So when we become overwhelmed with the stressors of life, like the major ones, death, divorce, if we lose a job, if we have experienced some type of trauma, and if we have not gotten any help for that, and have not learned how to use positive coping skills to manage stress, some of us resort to using, and misusing drugs as a way to cope, and also as a way to self-medicate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important, especially for those of us who use these ways to relieve our stress, to find more positive ways to manage our stress.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next slide, please. So I understand that there are two main categories of stress. I kind of mentioned them briefly earlier.
Yes.
There is stress and distress, right?
Right.
Can you expound on both of these a little bit more and maybe give us an examples of both? Next slide.
Okay. So yeah, so all stress is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, we need some positive stress in our lives. Eustress is also called positive stress.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps us reach our goals and accomplish things. In fact, positive stress is responsible for the many things that we do in our lives that motivates us. For example, getting out of bed in the morning, organizing our lives so that we can meet our appointments on time, like work, meetings. Another example of positive stress is when someone is about to take an exam in school. And we are studying for it, we study for it. And on the day of the exam, we feel a little increase in our heart rate. We might be breathing a little bit quicker, becoming more aware of our surroundings, because our hormones, the two major hormones, our stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, they help us prepare for these situations by increasing our heart rate, getting more blood into our system. So it supplies us with a little bit more energy. So positive stress can give you that extra boost to help you focus and be clearer when you're taking your exam. Distress or negative stress, on the other hand, gets in the way of us reaching our goals and can even deter us from reaching our goals and getting things done. And distress can be broken down into two categories: acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress lasts for a short time, and chronic stress lasts for a much longer time. Distress can cause us to feel overwhelmed, anxious, and can even lead to depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So the next slide will show some more examples of positive stress. Preparing for marriage, I know that can be a very stressful time, but the outcome is usually beautiful. When we participate in an athletic competition, that's an example of positive stress. Working out, anticipating that we're going to win. Going on vacation can be stressful, but also the benefits are very good, the outcome. When we get awards and recognitions, a lot of times we go through some things and it takes a lot of hard work, but when we are awarded for it and recognized for all of our hard work, that's an example of positive stress, and of course, good grades. So here's another video that shows what happens in our bodies when stress becomes chronic.
Stress is usually seen as something we need to avoid. This is not true. We need stress, and we need our body's stress hormone cortisol to rise and fall throughout the day. Stress helps us wake up in the morning, helps us focus, learn, and remember new things. It's when people experience too much stress and start having difficulties coping that stress becomes a problem. High levels of stress can disrupt the natural changes in the body's stress response system and start to affect our physical and mental health. Over time, accumulated stress can result in false FFF response activations. When trying to measure our stress tolerance, the bucket analogy can be helpful. Our stress tolerance, or the size of our bucket, is a product of our genes, personality, and life experiences, and its size varies from person to person. The water in this analogy is the combination of all the stress in your life. We use the coping strategies we have available to keep our bucket from overflowing. They are like taps that allow water to drain from the bucket. Stress can include training, work, school, relationships, finances, moving, changing jobs, or the loss of a loved one. Both positive and negative experiences will affect the water level. A big bucket can hold more water or stress before it overflows. With a smaller bucket, less water is required for the water or stress level to become critical. While you can't change the size of your bucket, you can make life adjustments to reduce water coming in. You can also learn new coping strategies and stress management techniques to allow water to drain out. Mind tools, exercise, quality sleep, relaxation, and sharing your feelings with friends are some examples of effective water taps. Staying up late, sleeping in, drugs, inactivity, procrastination, suppressing or ignoring problems are examples of unhelpful coping strategies or false taps. They might give temporary relief, but actually result in water flowing back into your bucket. This video was created by Brave, Building Healthy Minds.
Thank you, Dee. It's funny to think that stress can actually be healthy or positive,
Yeah.
Oftentimes when we think about stress, it's always, like I'm pulling my hair out type of ordeal, or something that can be very negative.
Yes.
So I know that you shared with us what stress is and the two categories of stress, stress and distress. How do we know if we're experiencing stress? I know that, sometimes we can kind of go through that and not even know what's happening with us, right? So how can we tell what are some signs that we should look for, Dee?
Okay, so stress becomes a problem when it starts to interfere with life, like your activities of daily living, relationships. And as the video explained, we have different sizes of stress, how much we can carry. That all depends on our experiences, our personalities, our temperaments. But once the bucket is full, and it starts to overflow, which then starts to prevent us from living our healthy lives. So some signs of stress can be irritability, wanting to be alone. Now, if that's not your normal pattern, that's a problem. Eating too much, not eating enough, And of course, becoming addicted to drugs, alcohol, or other behavioral addictions like gambling, shopping, working too much. Sometimes it prevents us from sleeping. Sometimes stress can make us sleep too much. It can cause physical problems like chest pain, dizziness, headaches. A lot of people complain of stress headaches. It's any behavior or complaint that is not your norm can be a sign of stress.
Okay. All right. So in other words, we just really need to know ourselves. We really need to be aware of what our baseline is, and anything that kind of goes above that significantly or below that significantly. It sounds like it's something that is important for us to kind of take note of, right?
Yeah, know when enough is enough, know when, and we'll talk about that a little later. And we'll also talk about the threshold. Everybody has a certain threshold too, as well, for their breaking point.
Yeah. And your threshold may be a little bit more higher than mine, right?
Yes.
Like it might be a little bigger. Yeah. A lot of what you shared about the signs and symptoms of stress also mimics anxiety. Could you talk a little bit more about how we can distinguish between the two?
Yeah, so that's true. Stress and anxiety share some of the same emotional, physical, and cognitive symptoms. The difference is where they originate from. They originate from different stimuli. So stress is a response to an external cause, such as an exam, arguing with a friend or spouse, getting caught in traffic while you're running late for work. So with this type of stress, with this stress, once the situation subsides, the symptoms go away. Because these are external factors, we can usually deal with them. We can tackle them head on. If these external things become chronic, there are ways to handle them that we will discuss later. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a person's specific reaction to stress. Hence, it's internal, it's within us. Anxiety is often described by people as a persistent feeling of doom or dread, like something bad is going to happen. And anxiety often hangs around us, it hangs out with us, even when the stressor or the stimuli has subsided. So the next slide will talk a little bit more about the difference between stress and anxiety.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
So as you can see, anxiety is a little bit more serious. You
Yeah.
know, the recommendations are talk to your doctor, medications, and you know, things like that. So it's a little bit more serious.
Sure, sure. Sometimes I will liken anxiety to the Mucinex guy who likes to pack up his bag and try to move in into the immune system or into the sinus area.
Yes.
That day, right? Where stress can kind of just filter through. Yes, but both are definitely can seriously impact a person's life. They both can. Dee, can you speak a little bit more about the effects of stress on our bodies a little bit?
Yes. So as this picture shows, stress affects almost every organ of the body.
Mhm.
Experience muscle tension, increased heart rate, trouble breathing, hyper and hypoventilation, headaches, migraines. It can even affect your skin. We can develop acne. We can lose our hair and even have fertility problems. Um, it can also lead to weight gain. Sometimes people lose weight when they're stressed.
Mhm.
Blood sugar problems, digestion issues, all kinds of things. So that's why it's very important to alleviate and to just to uh, decrease the stress that you're experiencing.
Mhm. Absolutely. Can throw our bodies all out of whack.
Yes.
Uh, DB, can you talk about the stress response cycle? What exactly is the stress response cycle?
So when we face anything that the brain perceives as a threat, like a dog chasing you, um, for instance, I'm walking in the park and all of a sudden a dog starts charging at me.
Mhm.
Well, first thing, that's the stressor, right? So that's the beginning of the cycle.
Absolutely.
So now my body is preparing to handle this threat. So my heart rate increases, the blood starts pumping so I can run, my breathing increases, and I become more aware. So I'm taking action,
Mhm.
and typically it needs to be a physical action. That's why a lot of times, like one of the previous videos stated, a lot of our stress is emotional. Well,
Mhm.
what do we do with that? You know, we're not being chased by a dog.
Mhm.
So I'm being chased by the dog, so I'm running. Now all of a sudden the owner um, decides to show up or whatever and distracts the dog, calls the dog away. So then my body starts to revert back to its pre-stress state. And I find relief, my breathing subsides, my heart rate lowers. And so I feel safe again.
Sure.
So like and that's the cycle. Like all biological processes, the stress response has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If we can move all the way through that cycle where we feel safe again, we can stay healthier and can prevent chronic stress and anxiety.
Mhm.
So that's what the cycle is about.
Okay. Thank you. Um,
Hmm.
it's pretty powerful, that I think that so often we're taught to suppress our emotions or kind of just push through that stress, um, you know, or maybe. Even just ignore it.
Hmm.
So I think it's very helpful to recognize the importance of allowing the cycle to be completed, to allow stress to kind of run its course.
Hmm.
So thank you for sharing that. Now that we know a little bit about what stress is, and we can identify different symptoms in our lives, and the fact that we need to allow the cycle to complete,
Hmm.
what next? What next?
So this is just another depiction of what I was talking about earlier. This graph depicts a healthy stress response
Okay.
cycle. Notice how there is a trigger, then there's a peak
Mhm.
and a normal recovery period, as well as a threshold or the breaking point. And so the cycle is pretty short. You know, it's pretty normal. It completes itself. and it does not rise above that threshold or that breaking point for the person. So the next slide will depict an unhealthy stress cycle. So when the stress raises above the threshold, you notice that it can start to affect our ability, our health, and our ability to function. This slide depicts an unhealthy stress response, and notice how there's a stress trigger, it peaks, but there's a slow recovery.
Yeah.
Then when you're not allowed to complete that cycle, which a lot of cases happens in our emotionally initiated stresses, there's another stress trigger, slow recovery, and then it reaches above that threshold. So it overwhelms us and it reaches our the breaking point.
Sure, sure. I can see how it increases over time if it's not dealt with or that cycle doesn't complete.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like that bucket, right? If it doesn't get a chance to empty out, it
That's
will.
right.
Yeah, definitely.
That's exactly right. So, and in order for us to complete the cycle, it really helps to do something physical, that really, really helps. We'll talk about that a little later. So we're going to watch a short video about the stress response cycle and how we can prevent stress from happening or becoming chronic by completing the cycle.
The stress response cycle is a biological process in our bodies. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, just like all the biological processes. Unfortunately, there is a disconnect in modern human life between what activates the stress response and what completes the stress response cycle. So the things that actually cause our stress, like traffic and our kids and money and the fate of the world, are not things that we can escape from, like a lion, which is what the stress response is built for. It's to help us run away from the lion. Instead,
things you can do to complete the stress response cycle, separate from whether or not you solve any of the problems that caused your stress, are number one, run. Any physical activity that makes your body feel as though it has escaped from a lion. It could be actually running, or the elliptical machine, or your Zumba class, or just dancing it out to Beyonce in your kitchen, or just tightening all your muscles for 10 slow counts and then relaxing them. That's gonna allow your body to feel like it's in a safe place again. Or if that's not effective for you, and it's not for everybody, a 20-second hug. Finding someone you love and trust enough to hug for 20 seconds. 20 seconds is an awkwardly long hug if you don't really like the person that you're hugging. So someone that you do like and trust enough to hug for 20 seconds. You support your own weight, either standing over your own center of gravity or sitting. Wrap your arms around the person and let your body return to a state of safety. With the change of neurochemicals, your heart rate will lower, your blood pressure will decrease, and you'll feel totally different, just 20 seconds. And third, a good night's sleep. Sleep is important for so many reasons, but one of the many, many, many things that can complete the stress response cycle is an actual full night's sleep. It's actually true that if you sleep on it, you'll feel better in the morning.
Thank you. Dee, I like how they talked about the hug, right?
Yeah.
When I'm having a really stressful day, I will say to my husband, I need an Alton hug, right? And that's my husband's, that's a clue to my husband that, hey, Shadana's had a stressful day and she just needs a little tighter hug today. So I will say to him, I need an Alton hug. So, and he does hug just a little tighter and a little longer. So that's really good. So Diva, we do have a question.
Yes.
How do we know when we are stressed past our threshold? Like, how do we know that?
So if you know yourself pretty well, and I think we pretty much know ourselves, we are going to be doing things that are out of the ordinary. We're going to be responding to our spouses, to our friends, to our coworkers in ways that we don't normally respond, maybe shouting or yelling, or I don't know, becoming more frustrated. When we start doing these types of things now, if it's part of your personality, then that's
Sure.
another thing. But even if it's part of your personality, if it's on steroids, if it increases, that's a sign that you have passed that threshold.
Mhm.
So those are some of the signs.
Good.
It's kind of a relational thing, you know. Or even if you're not really involved in a relationship, if you live alone, you know, just notice things like overeating or undereating, you know,
Mhm.
any of the things that I mentioned before. Um, and the things that are outside of your norm, that's how you know that something is really bothering you, you're stressed out, or you may be approaching anxiety.
Sure, sure. So any changes in our behavior, we should
Yes.
pay close attention to.
Hmm.
Um, Dee, now, can you tell us a little bit more about how we can prevent stress or manage our stress?
Okay. Well, by completing the stress response cycle, if you notice the two women that were presenting last, those three things involved physical. They involve physical things. I remember a case a couple of years ago. I was going through a lot of stress and anxiety because of my son. He had just moved away
Mhm.
um, to California. There was earthquakes happening. There was a shooting near where he was. He was traveling to another part of California. I was not able to, for a long time, I was not able to contact him. He wasn't responding. And so I wasn't sleeping. And, you know, I was talking to God, praying. However, I found for the first time that I had to get out of my bed and do jumping jacks.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I mean, I had to do that to calm myself down, you know, and I did some jumping jacks, running in place, and it actually helped,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know. So really try to do something physical
Mhm.
because that kind of helps complete that response.
Sure, sure. It's kind of like our body's response, whether it's fight, flight, or freeze, you know.
Abs is exactly right.
So if we have a tendency to flight, you know, we need that physical outlet, you know. So
Yes.
yeah, good. Thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
So at this time, Dee, can you tell us a little bit more about things that we can do to manage our stress?
Okay, so the following slides are going to be 10 techniques to manage our stress. So number one, it really helps when we can identify what our stressors are. Now, the six that are mentioned here are huge. They're very big stressors. We also can experience, depending on who we are and what our personalities and temperaments are, you know, they may not be these huge things, but statistics say that these are some of the big things that cause us to stress out. And sometimes when we can name something, we can tame it. So identify what is bothering you, what is stressing you. Next slide. The second thing is to create healthy boundaries. This is true for all of us, and it is especially true for those of us who are experiencing substance misuse disorder. Um, you know, I found that when I create boundaries for myself, it automatically creates boundaries for other people. So
Mhm.
it's very, very important to create healthy boundaries with the physical boundaries, with personal space. Um, if we need rest, we need to let people know. We need to, you know, to expect and respect each other. We
Mhm.
need to communicate our needs. We need to stick up for ourselves, and we also need to know that we have rights to our thoughts, beliefs, values, and opinions.
Absolutely.
This one here, learn to say no, and
Mhm.
I would add and mean it.
That's a hard one sometimes, Dee.
That's very difficult, you
Mhm.
know. Say no. We have to learn to say no. Sometimes we believe that, you know, saying no is being mean or uncooperative or rude, but sometimes it's not, you know. If it's about protecting your mental health, if it's about telling people that you cannot do another thing when it comes to our jobs, when it comes to relationships,
Mhm.
you need to learn to say no and mean it.
Yeah. And there's some pretty creative ways to say no as well.
That's true.
Mhm.
And that's very true. Wait, not now, put a
Mhm.
pause in it. I got to think about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those are other ways to kind of give yourself some time to figure out if you can do it or not.
Absolutely.
Um, Time management. When we manage our time, we become more organized. We can meet deadlines. We can include time for self-care, ways to relax and de-stress ourselves when we plan ahead. So making checklists, believe it or not, is very helpful for me. And
Mhm.
it's also a sense of accomplishment when you can check off the things, even if it's a little grocery list.
Mhm.
I find that when I can check things off, it helps me feel more organized and happier.
Absolutely.
Set clear and realistic goals. And, it helps you organize and plan life ahead of time.
Very good.
The next slide talks about eating a balanced diet. So we learned in previous weeks how important healthy foods are for us, and especially for our mental health, how serotonin, which helps our attitudes, and how we can eat foods that are rich, that can supply serotonin in our brain. Um, by the way, there's no picture of dark chocolate up here, but I found out that dark chocolate widens your blood vessels, which can decrease your blood pressure. It also contains magnesium, copper, zinc, selenium, fiber, and it has a lot less sugar than milk chocolate.
Mhm.
So eating healthy does not only have to be about fruits and vegetables.
Okay. We can put a little dark chocolate in there.
Dark chocolate.
Sure. Um, Next slide.
Yes. Of course, exercise. I think this is probably the most common way people know to um, maintain good mental health and to decrease stress, because it releases endorphins in our system. It helps improve our mood, helps with weight and our energy levels, and it also helps us sleep better when we exercise.
So definitely a lot of benefits to exercising.
Absolutely, it really is. Connecting with others. I know due to the pandemic, this has been a challenge for people. Um, and this is another stress management technique that is very important and crucial for people who are experiencing substance misuse disorder. Because studies show that people who are addicted to drug and alcohol, they are really missing their face-to-face recovery meetings.
Sure.
So sometimes, they're feeling even more isolated, and sometimes they relapse. Then studies show that they have relapsed during this period because they can't be with people to encourage them and see them and maybe give them a hug. So
Mhm.
it's very important for us to connect with others, and especially for those who are experiencing addictions. Um, and these are some of the reasons.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times volunteering, that's a way we can connect. I don't think we think of that often, but volunteering for something that we believe in is a great way to connect with others. Of course, taking a class at the gym, um, painting, drawing,
Mhm.
you know, all of these things help with our mental health and help to reduce stress.
Absolutely. We're human beings and we're created for connection.
That's true. We're social. We're created for socializing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Now, aromatherapy. I don't know how many people know about this. I have a diffuser and I have essential oils in my bedroom, and it really, really, really helps. And aromatherapy is the practice of using different essential oils like lavender, orange, frankincense, peppermint to help calm us down. Um, there have not been a lot of studies on it. However, they're still continuing to do research. and it has a very calming effect on the brain. I know that in England, I read a study where they were allowed to use aromatherapy in birthing rooms or hospital delivery rooms, and mothers reported a decrease in labor pains and anxiety from aromatherapy.
Wow.
You can buy a diffuser for like $10 at Walmart, or I think they even have them at the drugstore, CVS, and you put water in it, you drop a few drops of the oil, and then you turn it on, and then it really infuses a room with different wonderful smells.
Nice.
Yep. So number 9 is contemplative practices, which include prayer, meditation, positive imagery and affirmations. You can have a spiritual belief system, practice gratitude, and increasing your green space and spending time in nature. All of those things help to reduce stress, help to calm us down, and are very important in managing stress. And the last technique is make time for fun. And I chose this slide because doesn't this person little cartoon look so happy?
They do.
And also I have a rebounder, and I jump on it because it's fun, but also it's very, it's one of the best low to no impact forms of exercises that you can find. So I put in my music and I jump, 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 jump. And it really helps.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think making time for fun is one of those items that people often neglect due to a lack of time. But if we, better manage our time, we'll have more time to incorporate some fun.
Mm-hmm. And laughter, that goes along with laughter.
Mm-hmm.
They say that it takes more muscles to frown than to laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Laughter is very good for you.
Definitely.
So, all right, to summarize, anxiety disorders are the most common illness in the US. There is a direct link between stress and substance misuse. Stress can be positive. We must complete the stress response cycle to stay healthy. And there are many healthy ways to manage stress.
Thank you, Dee Dee, so much.